Good morning. I think I have everything set up this morning. Sometimes it gets in between streams. I get a little. I move stuff around so much. I always wonder if it's going to work when I'm ready to do something here. Let's see. My other computer's still streaming. It's 30-second lag on this stuff. So good morning to everyone. I'm going to wait and see who else we. Yep, I'm talking to myself on the other screen. There we go. All right, sounds like it's working. Everything looks good. It's a Saturday when it's currently already 84 degrees outside with a feels like of hot 93 because that humidity is so high. Yep, this is the input from the EcoWit sensor with a little calculation, and that's also the EcoWit. So why is my garage showing it to be open? The other day, my little sensor fell off. Oh, well, that is quite the delay. Well, that was interesting. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Lucky J. Welcome to a quick and short Saturday live stream. I have a gajillion things to do the next day and a half for some stuff that we've got coming up in the family department. And so I just want to get in a live stream because I guarantee you next weekend there will be no opportunity for that. So I wanted to just do a little quick live stream before how many times can I say before? Live stream before I don't have an opportunity to do one again for a couple of weeks. Good afternoon, Gunner. L Strong, hey, a member, L Strong. If you're a member, you get this cool little, well, first of all, I guess the color, and then you get a little icon you can use as well. So L Strong is one of my members on the channel. If you want to be a member, click that join button down the bottom of this thing, and you too can be a member. I guess I should explain why. Well, there's a video I did on it. It wasn't the most popular video, obviously. So I don't like asking for stuff, but I just thought I would set that up and see what happens. So a couple of perks, you get a little membership video or a little bit early access to some of the videos, call outs like this. If we ever do like a members only chat or members only live stream, then you'll get to participate in that kind of stuff. So it has its benefits. Let's see. Sandeep, good morning. I'm going to say Siegfried from the sunny UK. We are enjoying the sun right now by a bunch, but it's supposed to get cooler, and I'm trying to fix my camera here. Hang on a second. I am trying, or we're supposed to get some rain and stuff, I guess, in the next week or so. Let me check my camera. Always makes me look like I'm pale and near death. Not much better. I will leave it. Did I just start the stream? Yes, I did, Chris. I typically do like a 9:30 in the morning stream, but just there's a lot of stuff going on, like I said, in the next day or so here for the family, and so I wanted to make sure that I could get one in quickly. And it'll be a short one. The content's going to be mostly questions if y'all have them, and then I have a couple things I'll talk about. I have these aspirations for my live streams, and then we kind of get off and do questions and answer, which is primarily what this is for. I've told you all before that the videos I make that I pre-record are the instructional videos for the most part, and then the live streams are more for us just to chat and interact, and if you have questions about things, to do the questions here. So that's what we're going to do today, and a couple things I'll just talk about, I guess, are going to be just some stuff that I did over the last couple of weeks in my home assistant setup, and then, which I think are cool. You may not, but I'll talk about them a little bit, and then a little bit about 2021.8, which is not out yet. It is in beta. But what I didn't realize, or what I forgot, I probably knew about this, is that you can install the beta version of Home Assistant if you want to, and then play around with it and give feedback to the developers so they can fix anything that might be an issue before they release. Yes, Chris, you got here just in time. So this is my dashboard. Obviously, you all have seen this before. Let me get the chat out of the way. So this is interesting. You'll notice this little cooler icon, and I'm just going to kind of randomly talk about stuff. So jump in with questions, jump in with comments. Don't worry about interrupting me. I'm not going to go into a full instructional video today, so we can talk about whatever. But I wanted to show this because I think it's kind of a cool thing. Sip of the good stuff there. Where is my thing at? I don't know where I put it. So if y'all watched, I have a router in my car, one of those GL AR750s. I did a little video on that. I got some comments on, oh, why don't you just use a hotspot or whatever? Yes, I could take a Verizon or cellular provider hotspot, stick it in the console, and provide internet to the car. Number one, unless there's a way to power that, which there might be, I don't know. You have to charge it, keep it charged. Number two, it doesn't give you control over what your network does. And being somewhat of a network guy, I like to have the router set up the way I want things to operate. In addition to that, I have 2 or 3 things in the car that are plugged into the Ethernet ports on that router. So a hotspot wouldn't give me that. And finally, the router sits underneath the seat, and it's connected to this little device that monitors the voltage of the battery in the car, and it'll shut off if the battery drops to a certain voltage, so it protects the battery. And it has a timer, so if it doesn't reach the voltage threshold after, I think I set it for 2 or 3 hours, it will turn all my equipment off in the car. Because if I'm not in the car, there's no reason to run it. Why the delay? Well, let's say I stop somewhere to do something for 30 minutes or an hour, and I come back to the car, I'll want it to just be ready to go when I get in the car. I run radio equipment in the car. That is, some of it's internet, and if any of y'all are ham radio operators and you know about hotspots and DMR and Fusion and C4 FM and all that, I run that all in the car. And so when I get in the car, I don't want to have the whole system boot up. Anyway, the point is, I run a router in the car, and it provides internet via one of those USB Verizon dongles or whatever. So what I did, and that's what this thing is right here, is we take trips from time to time, and we put stuff in a cooler. And I bought one of those. It's not a Yeti, but it's another brand of cooler that's supposed to keep stuff cold forever. And so I built a little device, or I set up a device here, and what it does is it takes the voltage. It's an ESP32. And I don't know what I did with it. I know I have an ESP32 laying around here somewhere. Anyway, it's the ESP32 that you've all seen me play with. This is an 8266, but it's some form factor like this, right? So it's one of these little boards, and it's got the Wi-Fi on it, and it also has the Bluetooth capability. And so what I've done is taken a Xiaomi thermometer. I probably have that here. Where's all my stuff? I don't know where all my stuff is, but somewhere in this room, I have the thermometer. Here it is. Here it is. For those of you who haven't seen this video, I made a couple videos on this, but I have this little thermometer. I have one of these in my refrigerator in the house, and I have a couple spread around the house. This is a Xiaomi thing here, and there is this PC cabinet where the computer is inside of like a credenza thingy. Has one in it. So what I'm doing is taking this, an ESP32. I put the ESP32 in the car. I put this in the cooler in the car, and then I can monitor my temperature of the contents of the cooler while I'm driving somewhere on a trip or whatever. So if we have something frozen, something that has to be cold, I can even set up alerts to say, okay, it's getting warm in the cooler. I need to add some more ice. That's 1000% geek, nerd, whatever you want to call it. But you know what? That's what this is for. And by the way, the ESP32, I have it set up to talk back to my MQTT broker, which then feeds Home Assistant. So that's what this is for. It's currently disconnected because I was testing it and it wasn't 80 degrees in the cooler, Fahrenheit. I was testing it here in the house and it works fantastically. So I'm going to take that on a trip and we'll see how that goes. That'll be fun. Then I can monitor the temperature in the cooler and add ice if needed. The only thing I don't know what to do is, if you take this little thermometer thing, where in the cooler do you put it? Do you stick it to the lid, which will be typically warmer because it's up at the top? or you bury it in a bag or something in the bottom for temperature. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to get it wet, so we'll have to see how that works. Let's look at comments here real quick. Uh-oh. Disconnected and okay, I guess we're back. I have two iPad 2 tabs, which I installed HA Companion on them, but when I open my dashboards and the cards are shown is not available. Any idea why? What is an iPad 2 tab? Or is that I don't even know what that means. Let's search what that means. I'm assuming that's a term that's probably generic. iPad plus, oh, I see here. I guess you mean something like this. So there's a lot of things, right? You can start looking at with that. An HA Companion, is that an app? I guess the companion app, which is the iOS version of the HA. Yeah. Okay. So the cards are shown as not available. So are you using, I guess we need more detail, right? What are the cards that aren't available? Do other things on that show up correctly? Is it making a connection back to Home Assistant? All that stuff is kind of something to think about. So let's start there, answer those questions. Does it work at all? And then you start digging into whether the cards are an issue or something else, and then what kind of card it is. HA from very open sources becoming extremely narrow one. HAOS is useless. Its purpose only for the support of HA. Cannot customize it much. Even the amount of Linux commands is limited, and some of them are not even standard. So I wanted to install on Raspberry OS. Guess what? Only Debian. Neither local Tuya nor Tuya2 are appearing in the integrations. Yeah, well, that's interesting. When I was running this on my Ubuntu server, I was running Ubuntu and then running Home Assistant on that. I started getting, and it was about a year or so ago, I started getting your OS is unhealthy, you're running an unsupported version and all of that kind of thing. And I'm assuming it's probably because of what you're talking about here. Now, I'm not going to say it's useless, but I think, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to try to speak for somebody else, which I don't do normally because I don't really know. But my guess is they're trying to make it standardized enough, not take away the functionality of all the integrations and things you can do with it, but make it standardized enough to make it more consumer friendly. What I've seen over the last little bit is that Home Assistant you've got things like SmartThings, you got things like Vera and all these other ones that are supposed to be consumer friendly, but they're very limited in what they can do. Home Assistant is very flexible, but it takes more learning. It takes more, you have to be a little bit more technical to operate it. And I think they're trying to bridge the gap between running Home Assistant as an OS and being able to do all the integrations that they're doing at the same time. And so the shift might be towards that, and that may be what you're seeing here, where you're not able to run it on all types of setups. But I do know that there are a lot of people that are running this on all kinds of different platforms. So I'm wondering what the whole Tuya thing is, why that wouldn't actually show up. That doesn't make sense to me. That should probably work. Now, that being said, anyone watching today or watches this later who has a comment on that, make sure you correct me, because I'm certainly not an expert in every facet of Home Assistant. So if you do have an issue like this, make sure you're looking at it. And you're saying, and if I read this right, you're saying that Tuya or Tuya2 doesn't show up in the Raspberry Pi version. Now, there's another thing that's going on. I don't know if this is the case, but recently Home Assistant made a change where the integrations wouldn't load if they didn't have a manifest. I think that's right. If they didn't have the manifest JSON file. And I know EcoIt was that way. It just stopped showing up for people. If you had it installed, I think you were okay. But if you tried to upgrade, it would go away, or if you did something different. So if you went from a version that you were running on this previous setup or previous platform, and then you went to this, and then Tuya doesn't have the JSON files or the manifest, it won't show up. that's that's a way out on that's a far-fetched guess, right? So I don't know for sure if that's what's going on. But there are experts definitely can answer that for you. So make sure you're asking, and those of you that know the answer, make sure you jump in here and help me with this. So let's see. Backing up here a little bit. Have those Xiaomi thermometers in all the rooms. I've wondered if they would work inside the fridge. So mine does work in the fridge. It has for a long time. In fact, one of the things I'm going to talk about today is related to how that fridge thing did something. It helped me understand an issue that it proactively helped me fix a problem. Here's my fridge plug. And if I look at the last, I don't know, 90 days, I guess I didn't put it in. Oh, wait, that's the wrong deal. Ignore that. Fridge. That's the plug. I need to look at the environment, I think. Yes. All right, so let's look at the last 90 days of this. And this is my refrigerator. If we just look at temperature over the last 90 days. And this has been running that Xiaomi thing for the last 90 days. And it's been doing it via the ESP32. Now, the ESP32 board for this is sitting, it's plugged into the wall right behind the refrigerator. So the distance is like nil. But I do see this Xiaomi that's feeding this show up when I'm watching the logs on my other ESP devices in various places. I don't know how reliable it would be, but it does seem to show up. What I haven't tested with this setup deal with that thermometer in the cooler is, can it, if the ESP32 is under the seat in the truck and the cooler is in the back of the truck and this thing is inside the cooler, is it going to be strong enough for the ESP32 in the truck to read it? If that isn't the case, what I could potentially do is take one of my little small batteries and plug the ESP32 into that, put it in the cooler itself next to the thermometer or with the thermometer. The Wi-Fi is probably strong enough to pick that up because the router has a couple extra antennas and stuff on it. So, I mean, I have an option if it doesn't work, but I'm hoping it just works the way I want it to work. So yeah, it does work well. I could probably get away with one less ESP32 than I have now and just have everything run off of that. Hello, Richard. I meant 2 iPad tablets. HA opens properly with good connection, and I'm using grids. So John, what is the card, or what are the cards that don't show up, and what is it actually doing? Does it say? You said it says unavailable. I wonder if that has something to do with iOS itself. But let's just figure out what card it is. Good morning, Raspy. It's going well. We're doing a short little stream on just me blah blah blahing, like I normally do. I had to scrap Home Assistant OS because it would run for a few weeks, then start dying every couple of days. Yeah, I don't know. To me, and this is everybody has their own use case. I've said this over and over again. I know y'all are tired of hearing it, but everybody has their own use case, and everybody has their preferred way of running things. I like running Linux for server stuff. I like running a certain flavor of Linux, like CentOS has its purpose. Ubuntu serves a purpose, depending on what you're doing. I mean, it's pretty close. But running HasOS versus running supervised, for me, running supervised, in the limited amount of time I have to play with this stuff, in some cases, most cases, running supervised allows me to do the things without having to worry about the OS part of it. That's a very simplified way of saying that. But again, if it doesn't work and it's not working for you and you have to switch to supervised and that does work, then that may be the way you go. If there's a reason you need to run the non-supervised version because you're doing something different, then you're going to have to, well, first of all, you're going to know how to do things. You're going to be more technically oriented. You're going to know how to troubleshoot this stuff, and you're going to have to probably do that. If you are running this and you're not sure how to start, maybe supervised is the way to go because it typically is more stable and runs better. In my experience anyway, and even what I'm seeing here, right? So I don't want to get into a big discussion on the virtues of the different versions of Home Assistant. I think every one of them has its purpose. And for everybody, you have to weigh your ability to troubleshoot it versus, for a less stable version, or maybe a version that takes more technical knowledge to operate versus a version that's just supervised. So I'm glad to hear it's running good. And I'm running mine on, I'm running both the Odroid, the N2 Plus, which is my production, and I'm running the Raspberry Pi 4B, both running the latest version of Home Assistant. And what I noticed with the Pi 4, obviously it's slower. When I do an install of some add-on, or I do a thing, it takes a lot longer to do something. That makes sense. It's a less powerful device. But I had a couple of add-ons installed, and I was having issues lately with the UI hanging. And so what I figured out, I think, is I had a couple of add-ons like the Jupyter Labs, which probably isn't a good thing to run on a Pi 4. That's that data collection data. It's a very interesting thing. It's JUP, and why not just show it, right? Jupyter, maybe Project Jupyter. So this thing here, there's an add-on for this, and it allows you, well, I don't know what it does. To me, I thought it was a statistics thing, but you can write script stuff. And anyway, it does a lot of stuff related to Home Assistant stats, right? And I think it was just too much for my device to do that. So I just took it off, and I think I've been okay. If I try to load that now, let's just see if I have a problem. I think if you watched my live stream before, I was having issues with this. Now it loads really fast, right? And the only add-ons that I have here are these. I use AdGuard here as my backup DNS server in the house, or secondary DNS server. I run it on primary and secondary. And then the rest of these are, I don't know why I have Influx on this, but I use Nginx Proxy Manager. So even though production's on my Odroid N2 Plus, this is my production for the Proxy Manager and production secondary for AdGuard. And everything else is just kind of stuff I play with on this, because it's my test play with device. If I were smart, I would move the Proxy Manager over to my production, so that every time I mess with this, I don't bring down my three sites that I run on the proxy. Anyway, I'm getting long-winded. Somebody interrupt me. Tell me something. Oh, Tuya does work. Okay. I don't know what the difference then would be. I know Tuya, the new Tuya is brand new, right? Maybe there's something going on with that. I'd have to dig into. I hope someone else is smarter on the Tuya side of things. Hello from India. Good. Let's see, 10. It's good night. It's like 9 something there in India. 9:30, 9 o'clock, maybe 9 p.m. I try to do these live streams early enough that I can catch everybody a little bit at least. Okay, so I'm going to go this rabbit hole real. Tuya 2 Home Assistant. Not available. I don't know. Let's see. February 1st. Oh, maybe this. Well, that was a year ago. I don't think that's it. Why can't I add it? Because it's not integration list. That's not. Yeah, I don't know if that's. I don't know. I would. If I were more knowledgeable in that, I would spend more time with that. And I apologize, Siegfried. But I think that I need to reread this a little bit. Integrations. Yeah. So I'm stumbling over this one. Let me move on before I make a bigger fool of myself as we go along here. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about real quick, this is something that I brought up a minute ago. So this is not the current version. 2021.7, I think 4 is the most current version. This is 8.0, and this is the beta, and they're going to release this next Wednesday. As you know, or if you're not familiar, they do a new release every Wednesday, and they're going to have probably a live stream when they talk about this. But they're talking about this being a really big release, and I figured, okay, I've never done a release candidate video or live stream before. I always come in after the fact, and if there's something huge and awesome about it, I might put together a little video about what's been released, because so many people do that, and I don't use half the stuff that they talk about sometimes in some of these releases, so I don't worry about it. But I figured, why not just talk real quick about what is going on in this release versus, and they're saying it's a really big one. And it's because most likely it's going to be related to this whole energy thing. And I did not install it. So I'm just going to go through the text that's on here and talk about a couple things. If you want to participate in the beta program, and I said this earlier in the stream, then by all means jump in to the beta. And you know what that means. If you install this on a production device, you're asking for potential issues. I can't do that on my production because the acceptance factor in the house, I'm to a point where we're good. I don't want to blow it up by putting beta things. Now I could run this on my Pi and play with it too. But I just want to talk about it a little bit today as we're answering questions as something to talk about. So this is what's coming on here, right? We have this whole energy thing. And they're talking about this being a huge, huge thing that they're going to do in this release. And it says it because it needs a whole section or blog post of its own. But in today's world, everyone's looking at energy consumption. And in fact, there's this huge thing in the US about you can't buy certain computers, pre-built computers in certain states in the US now because they're not approved by the energy standards body of the state. So California, Portland, Oregon, Hawaii, and I think Vermont in the US. There's dozens of videos on that. Make sure if you do pay attention to that, you're getting the facts because it's not all as bad as it seems. If you go to Dell's website, there's a couple things that you try to order. You can't get those shipped to California. They will cancel your order. And that's what sparked this whole big debate. But anyway, we're leaning more towards energy monitoring, energy consumption, knowing what we're doing because, of the events of the world these days. And I think that's what's driving some of what's going on here with this energy usage. Now, I don't know that I have anything that I could actually apply this to. I think some of these are related to specific types of devices that display the energy usage. But I thought this was kind of neat. This shows you your energy consumption based on tariffs. And I think, again, you probably have to integrate this with a specific service that will feed this data to you. But it gives you the energy consumption tariffs, energy production if you have solar panels and things like that. And then I'm not sure how they come up with stuff like this. It'll be interesting to see what they talk about. But I think it's neat. I'm a graphical data guy. I like looking at stuff like this, as you can tell by my dashboards and things, my Grafana graphs. And I think that this is kind of neat to see, well, how much is non-fossil, how much is grid power, how much is solar, if you had solar. I don't. And then, how much you're using. Self-consumed solar energy, non-fossil energy consumed. Then you've got this whole solar production thing down here. And then you can do costing and whatnot. There's a whole section on home energy management, and you can read through all of this here. So you can integrate your energy use from electricity grid, solar panels, individual devices. And I do monitor, you'll notice on my dashboard here that I do monitor my usage, but what I don't do is take any action on it. I do see here how much electricity I've used, and it kind of resets every day. So I used yesterday, come on, give me a number. Oh, that's the wrong thing. What am I doing? Here it is, house power. You can see the energy usage I have over time. And if I can feed this into this new energy panel, that would be interesting to do. I also have experimented with taking the RTL 433 and looked at the usage coming directly from the meter as it transmits it over RF, and seeing if I can make something out of that, and maybe that's the case too. So anyway, this is interesting. This is when I believe the oven was running potentially, or no, dryer. This is the dryer, and the dryer cycles on and off. So if you actually zoom, oops, that's not a Grafana graph. Anyway, you can see the cycle of the dryer going on and off through this period of time. Again here, and I guess something this morning was running. I don't know what that was. Maybe the dryer again. We dry too many clothes. So the point is, like, this whole energy management stuff is going to be a big thing for them. And if you don't watch your live streams, I encourage you jumping on the live stream. They typically will give you a notice on the Home Assistant channel. So there's a big energy stuff there. Siren is a new entity, or Siren entity. It's a noisemaker. It's a Siren platform, and then it's a Z-Wave JS Siren. So if you have a Z-Wave Siren, I guess now you can use it. A Z-Wave enabled Siren, you can now control it. So you could do all kinds of things with it. I mean, I could do all kinds of things with the Siren other than alarming it. For example, if my fridge temp gets high, I could make it maybe a Siren beep or alert versus the smart speaker stuff. I mean, there's stuff you can do with it, right? What's surprising to me is that this is just now coming into play because we've had these things for a long time. If you have locks, you can do things like they have, let's see, besides the locked and unlocked states, support for locking, unlocking, and jams has been added. So update locking and support locking, unlocking, jammed. And there's a whole bunch of this for August for this one. Google Assistant. So I guess these are things you can do with your smart speakers as well. Again, more details. I'm not going to go into every little detail here or show everything. I'm just going through some of the more notable things. So there's a lot of support for these different platforms for locking, unlocking, and jam locks. And then you can do stuff with automations now. A new variable, this. It contains the state object of the automation or script and allows you to access information about the automation directly. Some of this won't apply to everybody. Some of it will make sense if you don't do that kind of thing. There's device templating functions. So if you'd like to write YAML automations, you can now get template functions that help them work with devices. A device entity, attributes, more. I mean, some of the stuff I thought was already there, but like is device attribute. We had a device attribute, but now it's is device attribute. All that stuff, right? This is all stuff. The big thing is this whole energy thing. And I won't be able to watch the live stream, so I'll have to catch up after the fact. But this will be interesting to see how they bring this into Home Assistant. If you want to play with this today, you can download the beta and get started on that. So the beta is available for that as well. Let's see here. Let me check questions if there's anything going on. Do you know if it's possible to have Grafana and HA view as a panel view? I'd like to have 2 tabs showing 2 different Grafana views. I think Grafana works just like normal Grafana, right? So if I go to Grafana, I've never experimented with panel views. So Gunnar, tell me, or I can look it up too. I use Grafana at work as well. So I've seen the panel stuff. This page parts are going to blah, blah, blah. Open the panel editor. So there are several ways so add panel. Okay, so you can add a panel, I think. So if I go to just the dashboard, or I'll just do this one. Add an empty panel. Yeah, okay. Click the title of an existing panel and click edit. The panel opens edit mode. Click anywhere. Huh. That's not what I thought it was. Panel to me is just a visualization, right? It's the same thing as everything else. So you want to have 2 tabs showing 2 different Grafana views. This section contains tabs where you can configure almost every aspect of your data. Not all options are. Oh, I see. Maybe this is what you're talking about. So what's the difference, Gunnar, between a tab, and I'm showing my ignorance here, a tab and just like these lists of dashboards, right? So I have all these dashboards. Is that something on the side here that gives us a new, you have library panels, but I've never seen, I'm curious, I'm confused. Like, give me an example or a link to something here that tells me what you're looking for. Because I don't know, a panel to me is this. If I go here and I add, it's specifically a panel, right? Add empty panel. So you like an HA tab. So let me read it again. you know if it's possible to have Grafana in HA view as a panel view? I have 2 tabs showing 2 different Grafana views. I would like to show a dashboard. Oh. And you're talking about over here, maybe? I'm sorry. I apologize for being ignorant. I'm trying to understand the specific deal there. These are panels, right? All these things are panels, but having HA tabs, that's where I get a little confused. So let me look at some of these other things real quick, and then we'll come back to that. One more thing, I have all my comps reporting via MQTT to HA 2 values, temperature and load of CPU, but sometimes my HA says the value has no measurement unit, and it does not show the graph on card. So if it doesn't report, now I'm thinking these things would probably update often, but one of the things I've had to do, and let me just pull this up real quick. In MQTT, in sensors under MQTT, and by the way, I'm using Open Hardware Monitor on my computer to report it. In fact, I'll show you here what that is. This right here is showing data from Open Hardware Monitor. And I have an Open Hardware Monitor entry in my configuration.yaml. And so I get my CPU, total CPU temp. I get my individual CPU temp readings, memory, and CPU. There's other stuff you can pull in here, but that's all I'm interested in. But what I've had to do on some of these things that don't update very often is, let me find it for you here and I'll bring it up to the screen. So things that I want to graph that don't update on a regular basis will leave holes in my graph or in my cards because the time frame it's looking at had no update. So what I do is I do this force update true. And what this is supposed to do, and what I've seen it seems to be okay for me, is it will update the value even if it's the same value as in the past. A lot of times what happens is there will be an update, and if it's the same value that was already there, it won't update it again. And so if you're doing stuff on a timestamp basis, or you're displaying something on a timestamp basis and it doesn't have an update, your timestamp may not show anything for a few hours. And then if you are looking at a window shorter than that range, you won't have any value. So if you do a force update, it then puts the value there with a timestamp. I think it's every minute or whatever, something like that. And it'll update that. And then you'll have just a flat line, but at least you'll have values on your stuff. So with MQTT, I've had to do a force update true under my MQTT platform in my configuration. And that has solved that, if that's the issue we're talking about. So hopefully that answers that question. I would like to have HA tab. I would like to show, okay, not on the left, but in HA, but on top. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about up here. So you would have a Grafana thing. The only thing I can say, the way I can say to do that is add a new, I'm going to call it Grafana, although it's not right. MDI chart. Is that an actual one? Nope. Graph. Yes. Beautiful. And then panel mode. This renders the first card at full width. I mean, that's something you can potentially turn on. Now, if I go over here and add a card, what I would have to add, and let me think here, URL. There is a card that allows you to put in a like a web page. What is that card called? Yeah. So if I take this and I go to Grafana, hold on, I gotta go back over here. I go to Grafana. One more thing here. And I pull up my Grafana page. And one of the dashboards I want, let's say I want to look at my weather dashboard. Yeah, so now here's the thing it doesn't do. I don't have, oh, yes, you can with this. Where's it at? I think you can export the database, the dashboard. Where is it at? Well, anyway, you would find something like that. There is a way to do that. Now, I'm going to probably, this isn't going to work right because I don't have the actual dashboard. But if I put this as a URL in here and I save it, now I do want to make this panel mode. I don't know. Can I go back and make it panel mode? Yeah, panel mode. And now I have, actually I do have, oh no, I don't. It's not displaying it as an embed. There's an embed, and I know what you're asking now, I think. There's probably an embed option here. I know I've seen it. This maybe? No. Oh, link. So this allows you to embed dashboards within dashboards. That's not what I want. There is, and I don't want to spend too much time on this just because I know people will get bored of it. But there is a way, right? There's probably a way to get the actual URL of this dashboard. I can't believe I can't find that. I've done this before. And then you can embed that link directly. So wherever that happens, manage dashboards maybe. Yeah, so let me go back here to weather. Yeah, it takes me here. And then, oh, here it is, share. Here's the link. Yeah. So let's just copy this link and let's put it over here in this dash right here. And we'll edit this, cancel, edit the card, put this link in here and see if this is what you're talking about. Oh, gross. Boom, unauthorized. So you would have to, and what is that link? What is snapshot? Greater that we strip sensitive data like queries. Oh, it goes to a, yeah. Let's see if this does it. You see where I'm going with this, right? There's, let's just see if it does a snapshot. I mean, I don't know how often that would update, if ever. But you've got an, there's probably a way to do this. And this is kind of the path to go down. Yeah, see, I'm getting all kinds of connection issues. There's probably something here to do this on. Like maybe I need to change the URL or something. Oh, where am I going here? Let's change from localhost to the IP address and do an ingress. Cross your fingers. Yeah, that's not working either. Well, the idea, you get the idea, right? You can probably do this. You just gonna have to figure out the correct URL to put there, but you can, and that's a good point because I may want to do this myself. Sometimes I hate going into Grafana and going into the side panel here and then going over here and figuring out which one I want to pull up and all that business, right? It would be kind of cool to have a panel right at the top of the page and be able to go directly to it from this dashboard. For whatever reason, though, and there's probably a log entry somewhere that I need to look up that'll tell me what's going on, but you probably can get this done if you can get the whole ingress thing. And it may be simple as, let's look at one more thing here in actual Home Assistant. Let's go to add-ons. Add-on? Okay, never mind. Let's go to supervisor and add-on. And look at Grafana. And let me drag this out of the way real quick to make sure there's nothing crazy. So right now you can see that this is disabled. You could potentially put in a port like, instead of 3000 or whatever it was, like 3050 or something, save it and then connect directly to port 3050 on the IP address and bring it in that way. That may give you the option to do that. Ingress may not work based on the Home Assistant's setup or whatever, or their containerization, but you may be able to go directly to the IP on this port and do it. So anyway, play around with that. It may actually work for you. But I think if you get what I'm trying to do there, that may be the answer to your question. Yeah, so that's what you said, right, Gunnar? You want to have I think they call them views across the top. All right, so Siegfried says, I have 12 raspberries. I'll run a script, get temp and CPU load, send MQT for every 5 seconds. Data goes there as I can see it in the Explorer, but HA ignores it. Yeah, you need to, what you can do, and this may take you some troubleshooting, but watch your developer tools. So if you go into developer tools for the entity that you're updating, I'll just say outdoor temp for me. And you can look at one of these buttons here. You can watch this. If it's getting into HA on every 5 seconds, like you said, and it may just rate limit it, I don't know. That's every 5 seconds times 12. That's a lot of data. I've never tried doing that much volume at once, but you may want to just kind of watch it and see how often it updates. If it's showing up here, then there's something else. If it's not getting here at all, the other thing to do, of course, is to go into your integrations and look at, let me do this out of the way. You're doing it in MQTT Explorer, right? It shouldn't be any different than here. But if you go into your integrations and then you look at the topic, whatever it is, this is too much, but if you look at the topic, I did it backwards, didn't I? Did I do it backwards? I don't know. Anyway, you get the point, right? Come in here and look and see if it's getting as far as this. If you're looking at your broker on MQTT Explorer, it's getting to your broker. So I don't think this is going to be helpful. But you can, watch all those different places and make sure they're getting there as often as you think they are. But I don't know specifically if this will, I don't know if HA has a rate limiting or even the MQTT broker saying, I've had enough or whatever. So Lucky J said he's actually done this thing with Grafana. There is a security setting in Grafana or something that Google's can help. So yeah. So Gunnar, you got it right. So that's a start, and now I'm going to have to play with that, and maybe I'll throw a quick 5-minute video or whatever. Hey, John Schultz, welcome to the channel. Thanks for subscribing. I guess you all do see that, don't you? The subscriber thing. I didn't know that was actually out there. All right, so that would be really nice and lovely. Somebody's asked me to make a card. You can even go so far as on Grafana, in Grafana. Let me get there. Let's see here, Grafana. And you can take one of these things. Let's say I want to know the PC box temp. I want to graph it, right? You can also, oh, this is going to play this game with me again. I had to edit a lot of stuff in my video because it was doing this business. I don't know why. I just have to click the exact right spot. I'll just pick something else. Doesn't matter what. Really? Well, if I were to able to edit this, there is a way to go in here and actually copy the value of this graph as well. So you could make a card, the same one I showed, not in panel mode and not the whole dashboard, but you could make a card and put the specific item in the card as well. So there are ways to embed this in Home Assistant. And that feels to me like a video, embedding Grafana into Loveless, whatever. You could take an individual graph or an entire card using that web page thing. If you get rid of the security issue and actually make it work, which I'm sure we can. We're all smart, right? We'll figure it out. Okay, so one of the things, let me go back to Home Assistant real quick. Let me check this. Did the Googles have some environment variables, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Grafana has some environment variables, GF auth anonymous enabled. Okay, so check for that. Just a couple of things on here. This is not out yet. They'll have a whole video on it, and lots of people will talk about it. I just wanted to bring it up because it was interesting, and I've never done an RC release candidate video before. So they've done a lot of stuff. For those of you Motion Eye, they've added motion detection support. That's cool. They've added vacation mode on alarm panels. So if we look at the docs, okay, well, that's a rabbit trail. This stuff may not be updated yet until they release it. So is there anything that says vacation? No. So they'll probably update the docs during the release. You can do a Rainbird set rain delay service on your Rainbird sprinkler stuff. So they have a lot of Z-Wave stuff this time around. You can mark entities for dead Z-Wave JS nodes as unavailable. That's been a big request, right? We have these dead node things that happen from time to time. Now you can go in there and mark them as unavailable. So that'll be an interesting thing. There's a transition support for Z-Wave JS lights. Excuse me. If you have a BMW, you can do some of that stuff. Support for Z-Wave JS device conditions. And again, this stuff probably isn't in the docs quite yet, but it will be after release. Change behavior of Z-Wave JS services. I don't know what that is, but it sounds interesting. You can add arrays to turn on stuff in Modbus. Generic, blah, blah, Freedom Pro. The Lift integration, if you're using that, is going bye-bye. Again, we talked about the siren. There's Z-Wave JS device triggers. Now you can do unique ID support for your lights, covers, and media player groups. What else? There's a reauth flow for Synology. I'm not sure what that is. I run Synology, so I wonder if that has something to do with some of the latest updates. Synology is going, they're updating, I forget the version, but it's a big DSM update. So those of you running Synology, they're going to be doing that, or they've already released it. I think it's a slow rollout. I haven't seen the update on mine yet, but it will come. There's more Sonos stuff. Oh, one of the big things I saw they did, we'll get to that in a second. Z-Wave JS multicast set value service. There's groups events for AC switches and binary sensors. That might be fun if you're trying to control your AC stuff using non-thermostat type things. WLED playlist support. That is a breaking change. I don't own a Tesla. Okay. All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much that. Now they've got some new integrations you can read here. One of the interesting things is, all right, so Belkin Wemo has added sensors for energy usage. That's a new integration. Motion Eye exposes switches, and Z-Wave JS now supports sirens. We talked about that again. And then some of these are going away from the YAML into the UI setup. And then the breaking changes are the big ones. Like I'm going to pull a couple up here. If you run ambient, they're going to pull that into the UI. So any existing YAML configuration is now no longer valid. Z-Wave JS has all this stuff. The Z-Wave JS entities now will be in an unavailable state when the parent node is considered dead. So this could impact automations because Home Assistant will block service calls to unavailable entities. So if your parent node is dead and there's a child node under it, it's all pretty much not available. You can revive the node by sending a Z-Wave JS ping to it. So that's just a breaking change to be aware of. We talked about Lift going away. HomeKit is changing some stuff. I don't have one, but be aware of that. So Synology, the YAML configuration is going away, but it'll be in the UI. And what was the one I was looking for? There was one specifically I was looking for. If you're using legacy fan speeds with Google, you'll have to resync your device because that's going away. I bring this stuff up in breaking changes. As you know, I'm a very big proponent of reading the breaking changes. 2021.8 launches next Wednesday, and some people may go push the button, but I want this gives you a chance to be aware of the breaking changes before you push the button. WLED has a preset's been deprecated, so you need to look at that if you're running WLEDs. Playlist attribute has been removed. Again, a lot of this stuff may not apply to you, but I'm going through some of the bigger stuff that I'm aware of. So this is an interesting one here. The usage of snapshot is deprecated. I've said snapshot so many times in so many videos. Make a snapshot, do a backup, whatever. Now they're changing the services from snapshot to backup. And what that means for me is I run a couple of add-ons, the Samba backup, and some of you may run the Google backup or the Dropbox or whatever. If those are calling this snapshot name, the backups may not run until they update to use the word backup full. or backup instead of the word snapshot. So if anything is running that, and I don't know how the integrations work, if they use these type calls, service calls, they'll have to update. So just be aware that if you think you have a backup after you've upgraded to 2021.8 and you think you have the backup because it's been running fine, make sure you double check, because again, I don't know how they call these services in those add-ons, but if they don't update the add-on for a few days after the thing goes live, oh wait, so I lied. Wow. So that's going away in 2021.9, not 8, but all those add-ons will need to be updated in the interim. So just be aware of that. In the next couple releases, you need to make sure your backups are running after the release because of these changes. So I thought that was interesting. And I see a lot about this perfume genie thingy. I don't have one, but I see a lot. And then Xiaomi has some other stuff as well. The Weather Underground, sayonara. I've been disappointed with that for so long anyway. It's unavailable and non-working state. It's bye-bye. So, and then Garmin Connect, due to API change, it stopped working. So we can't use it without violating Home Assistant design rules, which I guess would be screen scraping or some other thing. Okay, so that's that. Let's check the chat for anything specific here. Honeydews, yep. Thanks for stopping by, Jay. You're probably already gone. There might also be one that turns on the ability to embed. And then let's see here. It worked for me. I could add the Grafana dashboard to a view, which I called tab, without problems. No security settings. Oh, well, excellent. I'm wondering why I have the issue then. It may just be a setting I have in there I just need to look at, or I need to refresh or clean my cache out or something like that. So real quick, just other little thing I just want to talk about today is to look at, excuse me, is something I saw that I thought was interesting. Oh, Chrome. Let me get on my soapbox about Chrome. Every time I go away from a tab and come back, it reloads Chrome. And if I have a like a graph or something up and Chrome, I go away and come back, then I got to I just hate that. I hate the tab reload stuff in Chrome. I want stuff to just stay open. If I go from tab to tab, I want to go right back to the tab. So, hey, Tony, good afternoon. Welcome from the UK. And Skillet, I'm glad that was working or got that working for you. Eco, it's awesome. I've been using it for, well, ever since I made the video, at least. In fact, my weather stuff in this thing is from the EcoWit. Let's see here. Fridge plug. One of the things I wanted to show you, I was going to go through this whole Grafana thing, but we don't have time today. But I will say that if you're running Grafana, you have a choice of data sources. I use InfluxDB. So if I go to my add-ons, you'll see, obviously, I have InfluxDB running. That's where all my time-based sensor data is stored, Home Assistant data is stored. And you just get through this through the add-on store. Obviously, you just search for Influx and install it. And then you can also, Influx itself has an Explorer. So you could go open the web UI in Influx, and you could go in there and explore the values within your Home Assistant instance. So that would be something like this. And then you could come through here and do a Home Assistant is your database table or whatever. I want to look at things that are Fahrenheit. And then I guess I got entity IDs, a couple things here. And then I can look at cooler temp. That's interesting. I only have 2 Fs. I must have named that wrong. And then I get the value, right? So no values, obviously. But anyway, you can explore, right? Influx allows you to do that from the Influx Explorer. And if I get back to add-ons here, then you also see the other add-on. Okay, stop playing this game. Hang on. If we go back to Supervisor and we look at the add-ons, we also have the Grafana. And y'all probably know this, but for the sake of being thorough, Grafana add-on, you just add that in here and then you can run it from the web UI. I have it from the sidebar, obviously over here. We'll get to it from here. So what I wanted to show you in Grafana is an interesting couple things. I do a lot of data collection because I'm nerdy like that. I like just looking at stuff. So I have all kinds of different categories. And one of the things I thought was interesting this week, besides setting up the cooler temperature thing, was this power stuff. So I have an S31 Sonoff plug, and I also have a Cloud Free plug, and they both do power monitoring. And I've been watching, and we'll go over here to environment real quick. I've been watching my fridge temp for a long time. And if my refrigerator temperature is above, I think it's 45 degrees or something like that for more than, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour, I forget what it is, then I get a notification through my smart speakers, through my my phone via the pushover API, and it tells me the temp's got a problem. And the reason I do that, I don't have a smart refrigerator. I made my refrigerator smarter using these tools because, number one, I have a door sensor that tells me when the door is left open. That happens quite frequently, by the way. We have those French door refrigerators, and if you have it partially closed on one side, it's hard to see because the refrigerator is black. There's a whole video you can watch in my videos of this, but I did that. And then I also have that Xiaomi using Bluetooth to the ESP32, and that's what monitors my temperature. And what the refrigerator's been doing over the last little while is it runs 99% of the time fine, but every once in a while, the freezer part where it blows the cold air up into the refrigerator part will freeze at the bottom, and no air gets up top to the refrigerator, and I will get a temperature alert. And then what I'll do is I'll do a forced defrost. And you're saying, well, why don't you just replace the controller or whatever, or the refrigerator? Well, number one, refrigerators are expensive, and this one works fine. It stands for the occasional, whatever reason the thing doesn't defrost or something in the bottom, and so no air gets up top. So I just built the smart stuff to monitor it, and I'll just push a couple buttons on the controller, and it does a control or does a defrost cycle. So that's that, right? So I added this power monitoring the other day, and I thought this was kind of interesting. If we go back in time and we look at this fridge plug, and this fridge plug, if I look at the last, 30 days, you'll see that I didn't add it till just recently. And if I look at this whole span of time, you may or may not see this on the video. You might be able to. You can see here all these little spikes that go up and down. Now, these little things I think are defrost cycles because it turns a heater on, and of course it's going to use more power. But look at I don't know. And this is something I want to correlate because I want to see how often the defrost cycle actually runs. And it looks like this is, and let me just zoom in a little bit more here and just kind of see if I can tell. This was the 22nd. This was okay, so it's the same day. This was at 5 in the morning. This was at 11 p.m. This is the next day at 7 p.m. This is the next day at, so it's kind of, I think it just determines it based on the controller, right? But you can see all these little spikes right here. But then you get to this little section, and let me zoom in a little bit more. So we have these cyclical. It should be on, off, because when it gets warm, it turns the compressor on and the fan and everything and turns it off. Well, then we get this little section here where it just stays. And I can zoom in a little bit more maybe here. You can see how it never shuts off completely. And if I just look at amps, it's easier to see. In fact, let me go back and look at this again with the amps thing, just amps. So we'll just zoom in a little bit, give you a little perspective. So on, off, right? And then it started here, and I didn't notice it because it's a very quiet fan. All it's running is the fan. The compressor's not kicking on, just the fan's running. And the fan, and then these little spikes here are the compressor. So the fan runs at this level, and the compressor runs a little bit higher. It just runs and runs and runs. This was on the 25th, all the way up to the 22nd. So that fan in the refrigerator ran for 2 days straight, never shutting off. And I thought, what is going on? And then I looked at the temperatures, and the temperatures don't look like there's a problem with the temperatures. So first thing I did was I took the fridge plug and I turned the switch off on the plug. I basically power cycled the refrigerator somewhere in here, and it didn't make a difference. So then I thought, well, I don't know what's happening, but here's a theory I had. I was looking at a comment here. I'll look at it in a second. But anyway, the theory was, okay, maybe it's not. And I looked down at the bottom. You can see where the ice forms on those little fins down at the bottom in the freezer. And if it doesn't actually freeze over, you don't see it. So I thought, well, it's not frozen over. What's the deal? So I ran a defrost cycle anyway. And after I ran, and here it is, you can see when I kicked on the defrost, and I must have hit like the button for max defrost. Like there's 2 levels. You can do like a long or a short defrost. And I think I did a long one that ran the wattage up higher. And as soon as I did that, we're back to cycling like we're supposed to. So why am I saying all this? Well, it's interesting to me maybe only, that I think the precursor to having a failure or having an issue with the defrost cycle is, first of all, the fan will run a long time. And then stuff, after it freezes over, the temperature in the fridge, stuff gets up to 50 degrees, which then starts, that's the bacteria forming temperature or whatever. So now what I can actually do with an automation is I can set some sort of binary value, that if this binary value then runs for more than X number of minutes, and we can figure it out, right? We can go back and we can see, if we look at the amount of time that these things are cycling, it's cycling pretty regularly. So it should set the binary value to 0 pretty regularly. And if it doesn't, let's say for more than 3 or 4 hours, then I can alert myself to say, hey, something's wrong with the fridge. It may be starting to freeze over. Why don't you go ahead and force a defrost cycle or something like that? And so what also is interesting in this period of time, and I think that's the case. Let me just double check. Whoops. Let me go back here. Oh, that's too far. How about 30 days, people? If I go here and look at this, the defrost cycle ran here on the 25th and not again until the 20th. So these things where it was cycling defrost, this tells me the defrost cycle never ran. So that's maybe a controller issue, right? And maybe even it wasn't maybe a frozen issue, but the controller itself had an issue. And maybe this is a time to replace the controller, but you got to find one. You got to pull all that stuff apart. And so far, I've been too lazy to do that, right? I'd rather just monitor it and hit the button every once in a while. So anyway, this week, that was something I was playing with that I thought was really quite interesting. Let me look at this stuff here. Thanks, Rasby. I guess these guys are... I guess Rasby jumped off. Yeah, and it's going to be a short one for me today, too. Well, we're not going to go too much longer. You did mention entering the beta testing. I would warn a little about entering beta in your production environment because you can enter easy, but to exit beta isn't possible. Yeah, I wouldn't do beta on production at all if you don't have to. If you just want to play around and you don't have to deal with an acceptance factor, and your fun is just messing with stuff, bleeding edge stuff, and if it breaks, you don't care, then yeah, by all means. But if you're going to do beta testing, the kind of the beta testing thing for me is, if I were to do beta testing in my Pi, there's not a lot of stuff hooked to it, so it wouldn't do anything but maybe the interface. All my other stuff is running on the production. So beta testing is if you have an environment where you can afford to break it. So yeah, definitely don't do that if you are running production and you have an issue, or someone might not like it if you break it. Anyone able to display Wisecam 3? I don't have one, so I don't have an answer. So hopefully someone else would. You're welcome, Balvint. Yeah, those things are amazing. I really like those. I've got them all over the place. Again, I have one sitting here. This will go in the cooler, and we'll see how that goes. I'm curious. I may just stick the cooler in the truck and drive around a little bit and see how well it reads. I may have to see if there's a signal issue. You can adjust the output power on these. This one, I think I have super low because I didn't need, the ESP is like a foot away from it, so I don't need to transmit. So I may have to bump the power up in the firmware for this so that it'll reach from the cooler into the truck, and, sacrifice a little battery power for the trip or whatever. Don't use the Xiaomi in the freezer. Nope, these are not rated for the freezer. They are not rated for the freezer. Why do I keep having chat disconnects? That's weird. Fridge design in the last 10 years has really been bad. I have a new fridge and I have had to repair it a couple times already. So I got a new washer and dryer a couple years ago. Had it for about a month. There's a sensor. It's about $12 US that tells the dryer that there's something wrong and it won't function if the sensor is bad. So the dryer stopped cooling. I took the dryer completely apart, my brand new dryer. We picked up a $12 sensor. stuck it in, put the dryer back together, and it's been running for 2 years since. So I agree with maybe some of the quality control on things over the past few years. They're made to be cheap. The thing about the dryer is if you replace if you call a technician, number one, you're going to have to schedule it. That's 2 to 3 weeks. You've got to be around when the technician is going to be around. That's an inconvenience sometimes. And they're going to charge you, a couple $100 to replace a $12 sensor. So I'm just of the mind, I'm going to do it myself. And so these things like the refrigerator, in fact, the ice maker didn't go out. The ice maker actually started, there's a Teflon coating on the ice bins. It started flaking off about 6 months ago. I thought it was just dirt or mold or something in the ice. So I pulled the ice maker out to clean it and found out it was doing that. Found an ice maker on an online retailer. Bought the ice maker for what it was, $50 or whatever, and put a new ice maker in myself. So, you just stuff doesn't last, and that's unfortunate these days, especially how much we pay for things like washers and dryers are at $1,000. You expect it to last longer. So that's why I add the smarts to things, because I can prolong the life of this fridge, save me $1,000 or whatever for a new fridge, because all I have to do is force the defrost cycle once every couple of months, because it does something weird with the controller. Once we load Tasmota on Xiaomi, how can I change C to F? It's on there. So tell link flasher. Let's see if I can actually, let me check and see if my Bluetooth is on. It is. Let's see if I can find this one here. Oh, you know what? It won't connect probably because I got to unhook this other thing. We'll do this quick, and then I probably have to run here in a minute, but let me. Golly. Yes, I'm crawling under the desk because with it connected to the other thing, it probably won't work. It probably won't show up here. Let me pull my ESP32 that I'm measuring my office temperature with here. So what I'm going to do, in fact, this is good because I want to up the power level on this a little bit so it'll work in the cooler a little bit better, I think. None of these are the device. So you have to wait for this device to kind of wake up. And then once it does, then I'll be able to see it, hopefully. So we'll just give it a second here. Right to repair law was passed recently. Yeah, but the dryer, I don't care about that. I mean, the right to repair is like a phone or whatever, right? Or something, a tablet. I guess, so the part, I had to buy the part. Oh, I didn't find it. I had to buy the part from a parts shop. And that's the hardest part, is getting the parts for things like a dryer or a washing machine or refrigerator. That's the hard part. There's enough YouTube videos on how to do stuff out there. All right, there it is, I think. So let's see if this is it. So I'm going to pair this one. And it says it's connecting to. So it's supposedly connecting to this thing right here. Maybe. We'll see if it does. If it doesn't work, I'll have to try it when we're not on the live stream. But once you get it in here, you should have all the settings. I wonder why it's not connecting. Oh, the Bluetooth. Oh, there it is. Perfect. All right. So right here, Velvet, you can change this from Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can also, and I thought I did this already. I don't need a face on there. Oh no. Hey, Ollie, how you doing? I will say hi, Ollie. I'm looking, I don't know what happened. So let me connect again. I think I did it. In fact, I know why. There's a setting. Hey, Ollie, I'm seeing you there. And I think there's a 30-second delay. So you have to wait for me to see your comment before I can respond to it there. I think there's a setting I changed on here on this device, and it actually has made it to where it disconnects very quickly. And I probably should reflash it with the original firmware and start over just because of that. But that's why it doesn't show up very often. I did something weird with the timing on it to keep it from transmitting so often, so it saves the battery a little bit more. And now I've got to the point where it actually disconnects too quickly. So I need to make a change and save it quickly before it disconnects. And you can see already it's messing here. So anyway, Malva, if you caught that, that's how you change it. You log in with Telling Flasher, and then you can change all those settings in the menu, and you'll see the Celsius or Fahrenheit selection. So there it is. Let me try to pair it, and maybe quickly change that setting I set so I can actually work on this. Yeah, see. I know Ollie's yelling at me, but Ollie, I'm saying, all right, here we go. So here's the advertising interval is where I change that, and I think I broke that. So connect latency, where's my, and I want to set this back to like, let's set this to, all right, well, this one may be a problem to try to change. But anyway, I hope you saw that, Valvent, before it disappeared again. Anyway, what other questions do y'all have or comments or anything before we end the live stream here in the next couple of minutes? It's a nice Saturday. I appreciate you all stopping by. And I'll talk while I'm waiting to see the chat here. There's always a 30-second delay from the time that I say something until you all see it. Man, I'm really disappointed with this. Yeah, for the Xiaomi, yes. For this particular device, Balvet, this one that I talk about in the video, this is a Tel-Link flash. This is not Tasmota. I don't know that you can put Tasmota on these. I haven't tried. If you could put Tasmota on these, I think it would be a lot better, but I don't think these are Tasmotizable. I'm disappointed in this thing. I really want to be able to change this setting. It's probably, yeah, and I don't want to waste y'all's time messing with it, but I'll try. I'll mess with it because I do want to up the power a little bit so it will work better in the car from the thing. And with that, I hope you all have a great Saturday, a great rest of your weekend, and all that jazz. Thanks for watching this morning. I hope a little bit helpful. Again, the live streams are more just interaction with everybody, answering questions, talking about stuff. The videos that I pre-record, are the ones where we get into the details on how to do specific things. If you have something you have a question about, or you want me to make a video about, make sure you put that in the comments. And before we go, let's see what Yolink is. You are smart. The answer, Jose, is no. Oh, you know what? This is like we were talking about the Flume versus Yolink the other day. Somebody was asking me that. I have not done any of this stuff. I do have a water link sensor from, who's the water link sensor? Anyway, I have a little water leak pucks that I have underneath the sink and stuff. But I've not done anything with these. Looks interesting, though. 6 p.m. Yep, in the UK, right? Yep, it is 6 p.m. All right, with that, Jose, nope, I don't. But something I might want to look at if it's something you're curious about or have specific questions. Y'all have a good weekend and a good rest of your Saturday, and we will chat at you later on.